All right. So, a monster thunderstorm last night, and I have the new housemate at night sometimes, but not tonight. So, I don't know how often that's going to be the case. I don't know, but going forward, I may actually see if I can use the laptop with the webcam and the mic out in the other room. It's going to be tricky. We'll see what we can do. But in the meantime, let's play with rewriting some stories again. I think we're down to Blade Runner, Buffy, and Stargate. Unless I did one of those already. I feel like I might have. Did I do Blade Runner? I don't think I did Blade Runner. Not this time. I know we brainstormed roughly a few ideas for each of them before, but I don't remember those. So, setting this up. Okay, if you're new to what we're doing here, I have previously sat down a couple months ago and brainstormed up ideas for new stories inspired by at least nine different story ideas. And as I did that, I took notes on my laptop. Well, about a little bit, probably close to about a month ago, maybe a little more, that laptop bit the dust. It blew its hard drive, so I lost all that data. But the trick is, I've always stated that if you give any two artists the same prompts, you'll get different stories from each of them. And with that premise, I know I could go back and look at the stories I wrote before, or the story premises I wrote before. I recorded them as videos here. They're right there. I can reload those and watch them again. Please don't. But I'm avoiding that because I think it's a good opportunity to explore these ideas again for a second time. So let's hit it with the Buffy story. Yeah, I see that we're seeing some fluctuations in viewer count. I don't know if that's a YouTube issue or a me issue or something else going on. But I think of the remaining three, is it just the three? Yeah. The remaining three of the ones that I know for sure I did before, I kind of like playing with, that's probably phrased a better way. I'd kind of like to brainstorm using the concept of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Once this is over, I'll probably go back and watch the previous videos to see if I can track down. I had a master list that I wanted to use, and my master list had something like 20 different stories that would be fun to explore. I'm sure I can add to it because we looked at titles from just 3 famous fantasy writers. And I think the other thing I wanted to look at was translations where things go wrong. That's fun to do. If you've never done that, go to Google Translate, put in the title of your favorite movie, translate it into German, then from German to Japanese, and then from Japanese to French, and then from French to English, and see what you get. It's super fun to do. It's super, super fun to do. Actually, we could play a little bit with that tonight. Let's give that a bit of a poking around. So let's pull up Google Translate, see if it doesn't crash anything for us. Google Translate. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Okay, so English detected. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Let's go to Russian. Okay, so now we swap the places of that. And then we translate that to... we could do Irish. No, that didn't change anything. The English section needs to be changed to something, guys. Arabic. Let's try Arabic. Okay, so swap that around. And then change the Russian to Japanese. And then the Japanese to... do we do... we could do Swedish. Okay, that's our... Like the Swedish is Buffy Vampire Murder, which sounds like Buffy Murderer. Or Vampire Murderer. Maori. Let's do Maori. And then Swedish. Uh-oh. We may have lost our name. Oh, let's go with Yiddish. Yeah, Yiddish. Now let's do Yiddish to English. Where's English? Come on, I want to see what it says. Former student participant. What? What? Oh, that's so good. That is so good. That's so stupid. That's a horrible translation. Okay. Wow, we totally... That was so funny. So I took the phrase Buffy the Vampire Slayer through like 7 different languages. I went through like Russian, Maori, Japanese, Swedish, and somehow I ended up with Yiddish, and then Yiddish back to English, and I got former student participant from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. That's so stupid. Oh God, that's so funny. How did he get it so far off? All right, former student participant. Let's hit that from the beginning again. Okay. Let's call it Champion of the Hellmouth. Okay, so let's start with a translation over to Danish. That didn't change anything. That's weird. Might be too much. Might be okay. Let's try Turkish. And then from Turkish to Urdu. And from Urdu to Arabic is a good one to always dump something into. And that might be very close to. So let's try Irish. Ooh. Baal Ifrin. Okay, and then we do Russian, just because that's always a fun one to do. And then let's go back for English. Mouth of Hell. That's translated pretty good. We lost the term champion. That one's not as goofy as the last one was. That was a total weird one. I don't know how that happened, but okay. Um, uh, Monster Slayer. So Russian we got, and then we do Maori is a fun one. Monster Pepehi. Yeah. All right. Well, whatever. And then Welsh. Ooh, that'll be fun. Welsh to Yiddish was kind of fun. Let's do German first. And then Yiddish. There's probably a fair amount of overlap in those languages. They probably spent a fair amount of time close in proximity. So English. Well, let's do Dutch. Monster keeps showing up, so I'm pretty sure monster is going to translate really well. Kill a monster. Monster Slayer, kill a monster. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a fairly solid title, so it's a little harder to get too far off the path there. So let's just take that a little step further. Let's hit it back with Killer of Monsters. Oop. Monsters. No, we only need one. And then we do Dutch to Thai to Swahili to Welsh was fun. To Greek. Let's do some Greek, yeah. And then French. And then get back to English. Kill monsters. Yeah, that. I think the premise is pretty solidly stable. We're not going to be able to break it as much as we did that first run out. That was pretty hilarious. All right. So the premise of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The movie and the TV series is something we covered before. That was just fun to goof around. I'm sorry I wasted 10 minutes of everybody's time doing that, but I had too much fun. That's a fun thing to do. Take a movie title like Blade Runner, something that's like it doesn't have a meaning linguistically that's obvious. Yeah, that's really fun to do. You should totally waste hours a day doing that. Trust me, it's a good way to spend time. But if we took the premise of either the movie or the TV series and play with them. So the movie was essentially a vampire apocalypse as a gate to hell is opened, I think. Let's pull up the movie. I don't think I saw the movie. I only saw the parts of the TV series that I was around for when my sister was still in high school. I think Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie, took off because it had that Luke Perry guy in it, right? The movie. There was a movie, right? Or am I imagining that? Okay, film. Yeah, it had starring Christy Swanson, Donald Sutherland, Paul Rubens, Rutger Hauer, and Luke Perry. Rutger Hauer was in it? For real? Okay, so who played who? Okay, cast. Christy Swanson. Who else has she played? I don't know her. Rutger Hauer as Lothos. Christy Swanson. What's her bibliography? Ooh, wow. She's been in a lot of things. That's film. So Storm Rider, Bouquet, Chick Magnet, What If? Living Death, 6 months later. Soul Assassin, Dude, Where's My Car? Meeting Daddy, Big Daddy. Oh, I do think I remember seeing her in Big Daddy too, yeah. 8 Heads in a Duffel Bag, The Phantom. Huh. Higher Learning. Chase, Buffy. Highway to Hell, Hot Shots. She was in Hot Shots. Mannequin 2, On the Move. There's a classic. Flowers in the Attic. Deadly Friend. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Wow, dude. She's been in some big ones. What is she doing lately? Bad Stepmother, Winter's Dream, and SEAL Team. Huh, weird. Anyway, yeah. So you can tell the carbohydrates have kicked in after a couple weeks of this crap of eating this weird diet that I'm doing. My brain's not able to focus worth crap. So, high school senior, really? I got the impression from the TV series that they played her up as a sophomore or a junior. Anyway, so we have high school senior attends high school in Los Angeles, shopping boyfriend, spending time with rich, snooty friends and her boyfriend. Well, at school one day, she is approached by a man who calls himself Merrick, Donald Sutherland, informs her that she is the Slayer, or chosen one, destined to kill vampires, and he is a watcher whose duty it is to guide and train her. She initially rejects this claim, but is convinced that he's right when he's able to describe a recurring dream of hers in detail. In addition, Buffy is exhibiting uncanny abilities not known to her, including heightened agility, senses, and endurance. Yet she repeatedly tries Merrick's patience with her frivolous nature, indifference to slang, and sharp-tongued remarks. Okay, so Rutger Hauer, a local vampire king, and his acolytes become the enemy. Two young men, Oliver Pike, Luke Perry, and Benny David Arquette, who resent Buffy and her friends due to different social circles, are out drinking when they're attacked by Emil. Benny is turned. But Pike is saved by Merrick. As a vampire, Benny visits Pike and tries to get him to join him. Later, when Pike and his boss are discussing Benny, Pike tells him to run if he sees him. Yeah. So basically we have this. This is way more of a high school drama comedy. This reminds me a lot of some of the Japanese animations that I've seen where you have the high schooler who has some special circumstances that they're going through. And they're trying to keep it secret from the people around them because they don't want to be judged by this. Uh-oh. Wait. She loses her watcher. Okay, and then it looks like she has a falling out with her shallow friends. And then as Buffy and Pike decide to finish their dance, the film ends. The two of them are leaving their dance in a motorcycle. A skeptical news crew heads up, interviews with students and the principal about the attack during the credits. Yeah, okay. So it sounds like it's sort of like a redemption for the character in the sense that you take them from a shallow, meaningless person to somebody who embraces their destiny and responsibility. Now, we have this as okay, this could be potentially interesting to do. In a slightly different vein. My temptation is to always go look at something as okay, so can we make something completely opposite? Could you take a young Buffy, so a young ditzy female, sort of ditzy, shallow at least, who becomes the chosen one and the champion of the world against an invading army of infectious vampirism? And you swap that over to an old, by the books, like about to retire police officer who unexpectedly becomes the chosen one to defend the world against what would be the opposite of like a vampire? We could do something like alien invasion, like a pod people. The body snatcher thing, yeah. Invasion of the body snatchers. That's the reverse of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Literally, that's what that is. Okay. So that's an interesting breakdown. That's an interesting way to look at both of those things. I don't really want to do the reverse of it right now. What I'm feeling like, I do like the high school angle, the misfit high schooler with a quirk that they're trying to keep secret. But instead of doing like the shallow dits, we have to have them be somebody who's least likely to be considered a champion, because that's half the appeal. Maybe not. Maybe that's not what we want to do. You want an unlikely champion. That's part of the story. But what if the thing that makes it the unlikely choice for the champion isn't so much that they're unexpectedly like they have to change. The thing about the Buffy story, okay, I'm a little rambly here, but the thing about the Buffy story is you start with somebody who's sort of not the best choice, and they really don't want to do it, and they don't take it seriously. And over the story, you have this arc of them coming to embrace their destiny because they want to make a difference. They want to be the hero or heroine, as the case may be. So if we do that, the problem I have with that is I kind of want to do a story where the thing to overcome isn't some snarky little twerp that doesn't want to do it, but instead somebody who legitimately wants to make the difference, but the entire world treats them like there's no way it could ever be them. I like that idea better. How would we do that, though? Like, I mean, I feel like there's a way to do this, and it's sort of like right on the tip of my brain. So, like, what I'm thinking of is, um, so like a kid who's in a wheelchair or on crutches is not likely to be considered the Buffy the Vampire Slayer equivalent. They're not going to just like become physically better and more fit than everybody around them to oppose a demonic force. Like, it should feel like sort of like you have this situation arise where everything is falling apart and the world needs a hero, and the only one who can do it, everybody turns to look at and goes, oh, well, we're screwed now because what the hell's he gonna do? And that sense of like that character being able to, over the course, overcome their self-doubt and prove everybody else wrong in the fact that they have something to offer this situation. I kind of want to do that. It's a little bit more serious than the Buffy story is. It's less played for comedic jokes. I mean, we could still put some comedy in there to take some of the edge off of the seriousness of it. But if we started with a character with some form of major disability who isn't necessarily a chosen one in like a destined to save the world kind of way, but in the sense of when the shit hits the fan and things go bad, nobody else stepped up. And that character didn't think they could do it either, but nobody was doing anything, and somebody had to try to do something. So in stepping up, they took the mantle of the one who had to champion for the world. But now that they've done that, they've locked in that path for themselves that they're not even sure they can achieve, and nobody looks at them and says, yeah, I believe, I have faith in that person. And so it's like, it's sort of got to be like a double whammy, like this sort of like, well, screw this, how is this supposed to work? That moment of like, well, now we're all in trouble, but you secretly want to cheer them on, because like, come on, you can do it, I believe in you. Kind of as a reader or a viewer of it, you want to believe in it and like overcome, win the day, you can do it. But at the same time, you're completely aware of the fact that if the world had its druthers and it could choose its champion, this is not the person they would have picked. And so I feel like that's a good place to start. What is it they're trying to overcome? I don't want to use vampires. I don't want to use demons. That's sort of been used. There's a part of me that kind of wants to do it. There's also a part of me that also wants to do an invasion of like the Fae or elves or fairies or something like that. Or like the classic trope of a Cthulhu-based conspiracy theory. But I'm sort of feeling at this point, since we're doing a sort of accidental origin story for an unexpected or non-traditional superhero, essentially, that maybe the superhero genre is the way to go. So this might be like the thing about Buffy that makes it interesting and like perceivable is that you have the existence of the Watchers, this organization that's been built up to support a sort of chosen one destiny that passes through the generations. So you have these Watchers, this organization, this support network that falls into place when they find the new chosen one on a regular basis. So this is a legacy. This is something that's handed down. And it's a chosen, champion situation. So I do feel like there's room for it in a sort of superhero fiction. I'm not sure if I want to do this as a traditional Western superhero story where you have like a Shazam situation where a kid encounters that moment that they are granted the power to change the world and they fight supervillains and they're part of a superhero setting. Or do I want to do something a little bit more in line with the sort of Japanese style superhero stories, where it's a little bit more of a technology grants them powers or something to that effect? I mean, there's some of that stuff where, like, I think there was a TV series when I was a teenager where the main character was a kid who got infected by nanites and became a secret agent or something like that. There was one where a kid turned into a car, which I barely remember that one, so I'm not going to play with that one. But, I mean, that's one format of doing that kind of thing. And I feel like maybe that's a little more interesting to go in that direction, because the concept of an ordinary kid coming across a object that grants them powers is a traditional superhero story. It's not as unexpected. The thing that made Buffy distinctive was it wasn't the traditional story. It deviated a bit from that standard pattern. It was the chosen one who fights off the vampires, protects us from supernatural threats. I mean, could we go with a supernatural direction on that? What if... Oh, I don't know. There's a part of me is like, if we went with the Fae, like, you could have the world that the fairies and the Fae live in, sort of trying to come back into our world. And so there's sort of like a threshold you can cross to be a champion against those things. I do feel like the technology angle maybe isn't quite right. Because I want it, the ability you want the characters to end up with is something a little bit mostly magical. You want it to be sort of weird, because it's one of the first things we're going to have to do with it is the character picks it up to protect people or make a difference in some way, and it becomes locked on them. It becomes attuned. It merges with them in some way. What if we took this slightly in a Jedi direction? Like a Star Wars direction for this. So you end up with somebody who's going to be a champion. And in this case, it's not like a class of creature that they have to fight against. This is a little bit more of gaining powers to protect people from, do we call them Dark Jedi or Sith at that point? So what we'd eventually do is, and it's unfortunate, this is a good brainstorming session, and I started the first 13 minutes of it rambling about playing around with Google Translate, but I had fun. So the idea of taking the concept of a Force user and they are the only means of, it's sort of like a legacy of abilities bestowed on them by something passed on by the previous owner. So this wouldn't be like, you don't find a block or a Green Lantern's ring or something like that. You don't find Thor's hammer, pick it up and become Thor. This is more along the lines of, you find that there is something going on in the background of our world where certain people have certain mental abilities sort of bestowed on them, sort of like passed on like a mantle. And somehow some of the people who have these abilities have turned to the dark side and are spreading chaos and destruction. And the main character happens to be in the vicinity of something like that happening when somebody with the same abilities who's trying to help. This is starting to sound like Doctor Strange, is what it's starting to sound like. The movie. Maybe a little bit of My Hero Academia too. I'll have to think about maybe tweaking this a little bit. Because I do want to distinguish it from that. And these paths have been traveled before. And so this is a rare occurrence in which, given the same prompts, you could come up with something different. You can also tread a ground that's so well tread that it doesn't stand out as distinct enough. So I gotta seriously contemplate bending this in a slightly different direction. I feel like there's a clue for it in Ben 10. I want to play a little bit, I think, with Ranma 1/2 and maybe Tenchi Muyo. There are 3 animated series that take a really different spin on somebody becoming a sort of chosen one. I don't want it to be an artifact, though. how do we handle that? I'm going to have to spend some time thinking about it. We're about 40 minutes in. That's probably a good place to call it for tonight. Give me a little time to think about it, and we'll come back to this tomorrow, I think. I may have to reposition my camera for a different location, but we'll give it a try tomorrow. So I guess I'm going to call it there tonight. If you have any thoughts, feel free to share them. Yeah, I think we could do this. I'm going to have to do some examining of the chosen one trope a little bit. Chosen one trope. Chosen one on TV tropes. There's a playground to get stuck in for a while. Subtropes include birthmark of destiny, the chosen many, the chosen people, the chosen wannabe, chosen zero, chooser of the one. So this is also like Avatar: The Last Airbender too, is I think what we're probably going to end up looking at a little bit. And that's a good series to maybe examine. The poorly chosen one. The chosen one was destined for greatness, only to trip and stumble and careen off a cliff before they ever could. The poorly chosen one was assigned to be the chosen one of a prophecy or a legacy or some other medium, only for their efforts to fall flat. Okay, so actually, that might not be a bad way to play with that. Yeah, I know I said I was leaving, but I'm not done yet. So here's my thought. What if there is no Jedi? What if the main character is the chosen one because they're the chosen one to fulfill the evil side's goals, and they're not really able to do it. So they end up being a champion instead. And then they sort of have a price put on their head because of it. And so then they become the opposition to the evil side. That's something worth playing with. So this is sort of like if somebody became infected with vampirism, but didn't fully succumb to it and struggled to fight it off, but used the abilities it granted them to fight the vampire invasion. Now, I still don't want to use vampires, so we're going to have to look at that a little bit differently, but so what do we call the monsters that we're fighting? I mean, you could almost go the direction of like the aliens, xenomorphs. Ooh, Species was an example of something like that. That was a movie where a big name actress or model or something like that played the alien monster who was designed in a lab based off of genetic information received from an alien transmission. And so they hybridized her with a human DNA to make a hybrid that made a monstrous human. And if I remember correctly, that monstrous human had the ability to sort of combine with other humans. No, not quite. They made a big thing about her trying to breed with humans to breed a next generation or some stupid thing like that. But I do remember, like, she lost one of her tentacles and a rat got it into its mouth, and that rat turned into a monster at the end of the movie or something like that. I feel like there's room to play with that a little bit more. Okay, seriously, this time we're past 45 minutes. It's time to go. Thanks for joining me tonight. I will catch you tomorrow night. Until then, take care and have a good night. And I think I need to turn the AC on because it feels warm in here again.